The Eradicator has done a video talking about Skull and Bones, and I have heard many mixed things about Skull and Bones. It's such a mixed bag when it comes to this. But let's watch what the Eradicator has to say here, and he is here live with us this morning here.
Skull and Bones is Ubisoft Singapore's upcoming pirate tactical action MMO scheduled to release on November 8th of this year. It's a game that was first shown in 2018 and was supposed to be launched at around that time until it was delayed and delayed again and again and again, to the point that people, myself included, were starting to wonder if it had been cancelled. However, it resurfaced from the depths of development hell this year, accompanied by rock-solid release date and plenty of gameplay footage acting as preview. And the best that we can say is that what has been shown was not met with much enthusiasm by a certain part of the gaming community. In this video, I will go over the concerns some people are having about this game, and I will also address them with my own counter-argumentation, as I believe that quite a few of those are in fact unjustified.
Okay.
Let's dive into it, shall we?
All right, I like this.
Hi guys, and welcome to the channel. I'm the Eradicator, and as you probably know, I am, for one, very excited about the upcoming Skull and Bones, so yes, this video will be biased, but rest assured, if I happen to be proven wrong, I will be the first one to say so, just like I did with, for example, Elite Dangerous Odyssey. But I gotta say that I'm really having good vibes so far.
He was wrong, and he was you know, this is what I love about Erad. He's a man. He admits his mistakes. Like, this is the reason, one of the many reasons I love Erad. It shows somebody I can listen to. When it comes to content creation, it's very important that, like, if somebody's evaluation or their opinions of something are proved incorrect by an overwhelming amount of data, that the man can stand up and say, you know what? Yeah. It's like, I've had my chance to really reflect. I've had my chance to kind of swallow everything down. And, you know, this is why I listen to the Eradicator and what he says. There are a lot of content creators that cannot do this. There are a lot of content creators that cannot be men. There are plenty of them out there.
I have a feeling that
it's
not going to be the case.
Seriously.
So, as mentioned in the intro, Skull and Bones is a pirate-themed action MMO that's been in development for a long time now, and it is being made by Ubisoft Singapore, the same studio that made Assassin's Creed's Black Flag, the pirate-themed entry of the publisher's Flag franchise. And so, when Skull and Bones was announced, a lot of people were already picturing the game to be an MMO version of the similarly themed Assassin's Creed game, giving players not only the ability to engage in naval warfare, but also explore land on foot, and especially taking part in ship-to-ship battles from the first or the third person with a pistol in one hand and a cutlass on the other, slashing English Marines and rival buccaneers alike. And unfortunately, that latter part, as exciting as it might have seemed, is not going to happen.
Yeah, so we need a little bit of shame right there. We need a little bit of shame right there, because we all wanted that to happen. We all wanted that to happen. So just a touch of shame. Just a touch of shame. Let's keep going.
And it is, from what it looks like, what seems to be triggering the detractors of Skull and Bones the most. And I say the most because there are a couple of other things that we will talk about later as well.
Right.
So, let's talk about ship-to-ship combat, and especially boarding, and why we won't be able to freely...
By the way, he said boarding, not balding. I know a lot of people out there that are bald, including myself, were like, what? Did he just say balding? No. In fact, he did not say that. He said boarding.
Fly or fight, in this case, to freely fight around as we please as the captain of our ships. Now, I won't tell you that it's not the focus of the game because, of course, it would have been awesome to have the ability to do so. The reality is that Skull and Bones is not a solo game. It aims at being an MMO, massively multiplayer online game, played by a diverse player base with diverse machines. So much so that, in fact, it will be crossplay, allowing PC, Xbox, and PlayStation players to sail the seas of the Indian Ocean together. And this...
And I personally, I'm not quite sure what Erad's going to say, but I have to applaud that. I love games that focus on like an MMO experience that bring people in, you know, and have those player-to-player experiences. That's my jam. That's what I love the most. So the fact that seems to be a focus is important to me.
Comes at the price of some major technical difficulties, the main one potentially being desynchronization due to players having machines that compute at radically different speeds. And then that data itself has to be transferred to the live servers, and again, the internet being what it is, people have different connection speeds and live in different countries, and it is therefore evident that to allow everyone to have a good experience, a couple of judgment calls had to be made by Ubisoft, and that is why combat in Skull and Bones is not going to be exactly the same as in Black Flag. Now, to have an idea out of how it would have been difficult for Ubisoft to make such a game, all it takes is to have a look at what Cloud Imperial Games are doing with Star Citizen, a game that does let you freely evolve around its entire game universe and does offer the limitless experience that Skull and Bones detractors.
Limitless experience, why it has $500 million in revenue brought in as of a few days ago. We talked about that a little bit last night. We will talk about it after this video. We will explore it, and I have a lot to say like I did last night on it. Keep going, keep going.
We're expecting. Good, well, if you do take a look at it, you will very see that, you know, there are a lot of technical shortcomings here, despite having been in development for 10 years now and benefiting from an ever-growing budget of a whopping $500 million. And even after all that time, they still have not released full persistence for game world objects, although it's expected to finally be coming.
And again, I have a lot more to say about that. I'm going to really go beast mode on this line of thought, and I'm going to tell you like what I think about Are We Done Yet? I did last night. I will continue this narrative. It is something that is near and dear to me as somebody that I see this kind of content being pushed around a lot lately, where like, you know, 500 million and still not done yet, and I got a lot to say about that. But let's get back to Skull and Bones
later this year. Or server meshing, which will allow players to seamlessly transfer between instances. And why? That's because it simply is very, very difficult to achieve for massively multiplayer online games featuring this scale of fidelity.
Thank you. Thank you, Erad. Erad sums it up much more eloquently than I did last night, because I went complete rage mode because I'm so tired of hearing it, and I've been following this since 2015, and he's done it very eloquently. He's absolutely right. The sense of scale and what this game is trying to accomplish, right? Let's get back to this.
Simply does not create an MMO the way a single-player game is created. And the reality is that Ubisoft figured it out, and that probably the cost of creating a Black Flag-like MMO would have been too high for such a niche game that, you know, and that could be the reason why cross-play functionality would have maybe given them a better chance of generating a return on interest and eventually a profit. And even with the scaled-down gameplay, I think that based on what I have experienced with Star Citizen, I can only imagine that fixing desynchronization must have been one of the primary explanations for the title's 4-year delay, given how massive of a task it is, even for a game like Skull and Bones. Speaking of Star Citizen, by the way, if you are interested of getting it, that by the way, feel free to use my referral code, which will get you 5,000 in-game credits.
I have to shame you for that. Don't do the shill. Don't shill it. I have to shame you, Erad, real quick. Shame. Don't do it. Don't do it. Shame. I love you, Erad. Just stop it. Stop it.
Star Citizen is the theme of my main channel,
throw it
so
in there.
you'll find the link
I love you,
in the
Erad,
description down below if you're interested in checking it out. So, it is now clear that a lot of the outrage regarding Skull and Bones is due to the wrong expectations some people were having for the game. However, I believe that Ubisoft's communication also plays a role in that bad buzz. First, I believe that the publisher has often remained ambiguous about what the game really is. As the makers of Black Flag, they ought to know that the average gamer will associate Skull and Bones with Assassin's Creed's Pirate chapter and got hyped by imagining Skull and Bones will be its MMO counterpart. My assumption is here in fact reinforced by the fact that none of the trailers actually talk about the title's gameplay, as we are instead talked about generalities, for example, in-game customization or the resolution of the game. All of that is also, of course, rendered via cutscenes, which feels quite out of touch, by the way.
Totally agree. Agree
why
with that.
would they even communicate on the game's 4K resolution? Because even 5 years ago, it was already a thing. In fact, if you really wanted to learn more about gameplay in Skull and Bones, you had to watch videos people made in 2018, or even the most recent ones made by Ubisoft themselves for various events in which they showcase their game. And
here's the thing with this. Like, people always have high expectations when they first hear about a new title. When they first hear about new development, especially from an established developer, from a publisher like Ubisoft. Listen. Here's what I would look for in a game like Skull and Bones. This is what I would want. Like, do you guys remember what, it was so long ago. Far Cry 3. I believe Ubisoft did Far Cry 3. And I remember playing Far Cry 3 and thinking to myself, God, how cool would it be if Far Cry 3 had like an MMO vibe to it? Now, of course it's Ubisoft. And I didn't expect them to have like, I don't know, like an MMO experience that we're going to be getting from Star Citizen, that we want from Star Citizen. I'm not expecting that from Ubisoft. I don't think many of us... there was a lot of false hope out there. There was a lot of expectations put on this project. And many people really did, like Erad had mentioned before, had like super high expectations to this. But like really what I'm looking for with Skull and Bones is an MMO style Far Cry 3. And I'm not expecting all the bells and whistles, right? I know it's going to have limitations, but I really, that's kind of what I'm looking for. If they can nail that experience down, I think they'll have a banger. Like, I really think they'll have a banger if they capsulate that, personally, in my opinion.
And the least we can say is that the gameplay shown in these events, which I personally find awesome, by the way, I can't wait to try it out for myself, that gameplay is actually a far cry from the Black Flag solo experience. And it's a tough reality check out there for anyone who had pictured what the game could have been like without keeping in mind the realities of the nature of the game itself. That, I think, is really a major factor that I believe added to the overall confusion. Now, I have another point to make regarding communication here, and this is related to how the game was presented at this year's Gamescom by game director Elisabeth Pellen, which, I mean, let's just say that was not very well received, in my opinion, is a perfect example that...
Like, this is like Soccer Mom on top of a pirate ship. This is just really bad. This is just really bad. Wazzy, good night, bro. Thanks for joining us on the stream. Always appreciate you, bro. But listen, what I'm seeing right here is definitely sad trombone. Like, come on. Connect with the gamer audience, man. Put Keanu Reeves on the fucking boat. Dress him up like a fucking pirate. Nobody wants to see soccer moms on pirate ships. It's a complete wet fart. It's a bad fart. It's a juicy bad fart with a finish. And nobody really in the gaming realm wants to see this happen. And you're not doing any justice for your game by doing this at all. Is that what you were going to say? Thank you, Erad.
That shows the importance of a public figure in regards to how a product is perceived by an audience.
Red Bear.
In this case, the problem was just ignorance, I think, as the average viewer had no idea about what kind of person she was or what she was bringing to the game.
Right.
The only thing that people saw here was that first she was a woman, and that then her accent was so bad that people ended up watching just to see how confused YouTube's subtitle generator would get. And I have to admit that I found it a little bit hilarious as well. But that's not the point. The point is that before bringing Mrs. Pellin on stage, they should have properly introduced her so that we could have judged her for what she could bring to the game instead of her linguistic shortcomings. You see, Mrs. Pellin, just like me, and also Yves Guillemot, the founder and CEO of Ubisoft, is Breton, from the country of Brittany. Why is that relevant, you may ask? Well, perhaps that's because piracy was one of our nation's biggest economical activities.
And biggest exports. Congratulations to you. The Bretons. Congratulations for exporting piracy all over the world.
And that was actually the fact for centuries. In fact, the first ever female privateer in history, Jeanne de Beaulieu, was Breton herself. Brittany has entire areas that revolve around piracy. The most famous being, of course, the one around my very hometown of Saint-Malo. And some of our pirates, or corsairs as we call them, were even elevated to the ranks of national heroes and have statues and streets named after them all over the country.
This is why I love the country. Irad comes from a good place.
So, you see, if Ubisoft had communicated about our cultural background and what piracy means to us, how it is a part of our folklore, how it is in our blood, then I think that perhaps people would not have seen this woman here as a joke the way they did, but as someone who could do her best to share her background the best she can because it means something to her and also her boss, the CEO himself, Yves.
And the problem is, like Irad is saying, they never communicated that clearly. Had they done that before she showed up on the ship, and perhaps like dress the part, perhaps be a fucking pirate, you know, like I would have gave her a lot more credit if she had a motherfucking eye patch and a parrot and the whole thing, and she went like full pirate. That would have been awesome, and have that history that Irad has given us here, man. This is why fucking Irad is very thorough, man. I love how he brings the history into it. So very well done. How many views does this have, Irad? Only 459 views.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
That's shameful, man. You put a lot of work into this, dude. You put a lot of work into this.
Guillemot. And if you think that I am exaggerating, then please ask yourself, why Skull and Bones wasn't just cancelled? You know, why did they persist in finishing the game and throwing in all of that money into the development? Why is it that out of all of the game companies out there, Ubisoft, led by a Breton CEO, who makes a realistic, immersive, tactical action pirate MMO? Isn't it obvious that it's the CEO himself who makes shots here? I mean, any other publisher out there would have cancelled this game, but someone at Ubisoft obviously decided it was worth making it. And guess who has such decisional power, right? I believe you have an idea now. I'm pretty sure that it's his pet project. But at least that is my intimate conviction here. A conviction reinforced by all of the public support he has personally given over the past couple of years to the game itself. Now, to finish this video, I want to talk about my own thoughts about this game, which I believe is how most people are going to end up having here, or at least most people who are going to end up playing the game and appreciate it for what it is. As far as I am concerned, I am not an Assassin's Creed player. In fact, I have never played Assassin's Creed. I have seen my brother and my father play Assassin's Creed, and in fact...
Shame. Shame. Shame.
They love it very much, but I don't. I just find the idea of the game too bizarre to get immersed. However, as you now know, I love pirates, I love naval warfare, I love history, I love authenticity, and I like to have fun. And to me, Skull and Bones checks all of these boxes.
Fun. Yes.
I don't need nor I do want to spend time doing everything on foot, because as we can see in Star Citizen, it can get very time consuming and you can very easily spend an hour before finally getting into the action. So I am glad that Skull and Bones is taking a more casual approach to our future pirates' lives. I am also glad that we will not see any ghosts or have any of the Pirate of the Caribbean vibes that we see in the Sea of Thieves, because as much as entertaining Hollywood's take on piracy is, it is often far from the reality, and given the background of the makers of Skull and Bones, I know that this is something that they will want to avoid.
Make it more historically correct and keep it casual and fun for an MMO. If you give me, like, we don't need it so deep, right? It's exactly what Erad's saying. Like, I don't want it to be so fucking in depth that, you know, I don't want it to be a Star Citizen. I want it to have that MMO flavor. I want it to be able to have player-to-player experiences. I want it to be more fun. I want the focus on the fun. If they put those two things together and they don't go Hollywood with it, because he's right, Erad's right. They go fucking completely Hollywood with this. It's gonna ruin the experience and put a bad taste in my mouth. I would rather they be historically correct about things, and I think that those three things, if they could do those three things together, I think Ubisoft has a banger. I mean, after all, it's Ubisoft, right? I don't have super high expectations. This is going to be the everything experience. I never did for Skull and Bones. And that's what I think Erad's trying to communicate here, is there was a lot of people at the very beginning of this project that had this, like, this is going to be everything. And no, that's pretty much reserved for Star Citizen. You know, like, that's not this game, you know? So you have to lower down the bar a little bit, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be good. That doesn't mean it's not going to be a fun time, you know? But also the communication between Ubisoft and the gamer has to be more solidified. There has to be more clear-cut connection between the company itself and the people that work there and the gamer. And I find this happening so often. Great examples where there's a disconnect. Oh, we can list 1,000 of companies that don't connect with their gamers. Electronic Arts, Ubisoft. There's a lot of times where these companies are not connecting on a fundamental basis. And it blows my mind that there is this that they lack the ability to connect, because it's really simple. When it comes down to it, what gamers want from their game companies is a game. The focus has to be on the game itself and the authenticity and the passion of creating the thing that you want to play. It's the most basic concept. Like with Star Atlas, so much focus is on the finance. So much focus is on everything unrelated and completely alien to gamers. And they're making a game. And it blows my mind that they can't, like what we saw here. What we saw here with Soccer Mom on the boat. No offense against her. I'm sure she's a great person. But like there's no connection from the get-go. The visual of the Soccer Mom on the pirate ship is the instant disconnect, and I can't understand why these large companies with all the talent and all the brain power can't really realize the fundamental driver to make their game successful, and that is to focus on the game. Focus on the game, and the gamers will come.
What I am looking forward to is taking part of some awesome, fast-paced strategic naval combat with plenty of explosions, screams, and epic maneuvers, bold moves, right? And then celebrate that at the safe pirate heaven where I'll be able to spend my hard-earned booty the way I see fit, and that's it. So yeah, maybe not having played Black Flag helped me set reasonable expectations, because since I never played it, I cannot imagine how a Black Flag MMO would be.
Wow.
And I think that in the end, Black Flag and Skull and Bones will have a different audience. And sure, you will always have a loud minority of Black Flag players who will remain disgruntled, thinking about how Skull and Bones could have been based on what they had fantasized. But I believe that you will have a majority of players who will just be out there looking for a fun time, and that is why I believe that the game eventually will succeed. Anyway, what
Fun.
are your thoughts on Skull and Bones? Are you
Fun.
also looking forward to playing it? Have you pre-ordered it, or perhaps you wished it was a Black Flag MMO? Please let me know in the comment section down below.
Too many of them are focused on the cash. You are absolutely right, Limitless.
And if you liked this video, also please let me know with a like, and please consider subscribing as well for more gaming content. It has been the Eradicator. I wish you guys a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys later.
That is awesome. Good job on that one. I really enjoyed that. That was a good piece that you did right there, Erad. That was good. And I know there's a lot of crossover between DJ360 and the Eradicator, but if you are not subscribed to his second channel, please go over there. I will link it when this highlight goes out, because this is a title that I'm aware of, that I've been watching on the radar, and this is a very well thought out video. And I love the content. I love his content. It deserves more views. His second channel that focuses on games should have many, many more subscribers. Go over there, please. Subscribe to my friend, the Eradicator. Super nice dude. Always great conversation I have with him, always. And he's just a rational human being, an adult, and in a vast wasteland of children. There are so many children content creators out there that have no connection to game development or understand the industry, that it's mind-boggling. So it's very refreshing when I watch a video done by the Eradicator, because even if I disagree with him, we can always be adults and we can always be friends even when we disagree, and that's the mark of an adult. And I'm super, super happy to have him as a friend. It's, one of the coolest things about being a content creator is being able to meet other content creators and then realizing that there is a friendship there. And that is something that we have developed over the many years since I think 2018, 2019. And it's just been a very beneficial, we mutually respect one another. And it's a wonderful thing to have. And I highly recommend his second channel. I really do.